All right, welcome everyone. I'm here together with Dennis Ljungqvist, who is going to give us a well-needed workshop on how to train for those tournaments that are going to come. Dennis here is joining us from, I believe, Sweden, if I'm correct.
Yeah? Yes, from Kungshamn in Sweden, on the west coast of Sweden. Nice. Here. Yes,
closest part for me that is. So that's still nice. All right, Dennis, I'm going to give you the floor. Good luck.
Yes, and, thank you.
Looking forward.
Yes, thank you for that introduction. I was thinking of introducing myself a little bit more to those who doesn't know me. My name is Dennis Ljungqvist. I'm 34 years old and I'm a construction painter for my normal work. I started doing H.E.M.A 2007 and in 2008 I started Kungshamns Historical Fencing School. And I was thinking of starting this a little bit lecture of discussing how I started doing H.E.M.A, how I went into H.E.M.A, and when I started competing, and some things I learned with the earlier years of my competition, and then go through what I do to prepare for a tournament after that. So. Basically, I'm one of those people who started as a kid with playing role-playing games and doing all kinds of that type of things. And I went into LARPing when I got a little bit older, and we went all around Sweden and fought with foam swords and had a really fun time. But when I was about 16 years old, I wanted to become better at fencing, so I started doing kendo, and I was at this time living during the weeks in a little bigger town called Uddevalla. So I started training with the Uddevalla Kendo club that were there, and I had this sensei who was really interested in competitions. So I hadn't even been training for half a year when I went to my first kendo competition, and that was like a huge experience for me. I hadn't really competed in anything more than like soccer earlier, and I did kendo for I think like 3.5 years or so, and I moved back to Kungshamn, and we didn't have a kendo club here, so I started boxing, and I did boxing for several years. And I simply missed having a sword in my hand, so I was actually thinking of starting a kendo group here in Kungshamn. But at this time, I was also still LARPing and doing a lot of that. So I went to this medieval fair in Visby in 2007, and I come across H.E.M.A for some reason, and I did this introduction course. That was a 2-day course. It was like 40 degrees outside, and it was really hot. And I showed up to this introduction class in a chainmail. That wasn't a good idea because it was much too hot to be wearing armor. I can tell you that. I quite soon took the chainmail off, and I continued with this workshop I was going to. And I learned the basics basically at this workshop, and it was really fun. So I discussed with a bunch of friends, and the year after we started Kungshamns Historical Fencing Club, a school here in Kungshamn. And it was so funny because we pre-started a little bit in May and just had trainings, me and the few friends I had with me. And then we started officially in September. And this first training, we had like rented a hall for like an entire year, and no one showed up the first training. I was like, oh crap, this is not going to go well. But the next training, there were 3 little guys showing up. They were 14 years of age, and we had said that people had to be 16 years to participate. And they went in and asked, "Hi, may we train?" Me and my friend Kalle, he was named. We looked at each other and we just looked back at the guys and said, yeah, you were very welcome. So that was basically how the Kungshamns Historical Fencing School started. I want to go back a little bit to the kendo competitions. I did quite a lot of kendo competitions during the years I was fencing. As I said, my sensei, Donny Albertsson, his name is, was very, very interested in fighting in competitions. And I remember I went to Oslo Open one year. I don't remember exactly which year it was, but I got to meet this woman who was fighting in the same pool as me, and I didn't know anything about her. I just had a name. I couldn't find her in the hall, and I wanted to, have a look on my opponent before the fight. And I went to my sensei and I asked, "Is she any good?" I don't remember her name now, but he got this look on his face and he said, she's pretty good, but you could take her. Yeah, you could. And when we showed up to the ring, she had this marking on her arm that showed that she was in the national Swedish kendo team. And I was like, oh crap, I've been doing this for a year and a half or something, and I'm up against a Swedish national team champion. Oh yeah. But the fight actually went well. I think I lost with like 1 point. Kendo is 2 points, so it's hard to get a point in kendo. But I remember walking out of the fight, I was thinking like, yeah, this doesn't really matter in that way, because everybody has a sword, and as soon as I start fighting, it's up to me and my opponent. And that was like a huge experience for me, that you can win against everybody. It's not like if you go into a boxing fight and you're up against, let's say, Mike Tyson. You know that Mike Tyson, he could punch you out with a blow. But here, no matter who's holding the sword, it's still as deadly, because we're hunting points. And that was like a huge experience for me. And between these competitions, somewhere we had this big meeting with a personal trainer with the kendo club, who told us about how to prepare before going to competitions. And I'm not sure that this personal trainer actually had looked on what we were doing, because he started to tell us basically how you should prepare if you're like a long cross country skier, or if you're running a marathon or something. It was all about loading up on carbs and doing all this. And I don't really think that's maybe necessary for a fencer, because like, let's say you do a tournament today, you do 10 fights. That's basically like 30 minutes of fighting, while a cross-country skier is like maybe for 5 hours he's skiing and using his body. So and I remember we were using what we learned when we were going to the Swedish National Championship. I think this was in 2005, and simply I was out of order when I was supposed to be fighting, because I wasn't. It wasn't normal for me to eat so many carbohydrates. So like I didn't get anything to really work the first day. The second day, we like in the evening before, we sat down, had a bit of a calm day. We ate some pizza, and the next day I performed really well. So how you put your preparations in order could be a vital in how you will act later on. But I want to jump back into the beginning of my H.E.M.A career. So as I said, I started the Kungshamns Historical Fencing School in 2008. I had a lot of help from the GHFs, and I was down to their location for a couple of times, learning a little bit about H.E.M.A and such. And we also had Anders Linnard. He came to us and helped us with one of our trainings, and we had a good time in the beginning. So my actually first event to a H.E.M.A competition or event of any kind, except for this introduction thing I did on Visby, was actually swordfish in 2008. And since I started training H.E.M.A like half a year earlier, and in Kendo I competed half a year in, I basically wanted to compete directly as well. So I entered the tournament at Swordfish 2008, and back then we had 2 tournaments, you can say, one for the cool kids and one for me, basically, and the ones who haven't been training so long. And back then, the cool guys were fencing with nylons, and us other we were fighting with weighted H.E.M.A swords. And I remember this was a tournament where you weren't judged so much on how many points. The judges were basically looking to see who was interpreting the techniques and doing best type of fencing, who was dominating the area more than who actually landed the strikes. And I got to meet, this was also a tournament that if you lost a fight, you were out. There was no pools, nothing like that. It was you went in, you did a fight, you lost, you were out, or you proceeded to the next fight, and if you lost that one, you were out. And I remember I got to meet this strange guy. He was from one of the Stockholm club. His name was something like Christopher Swanson. I kind of been fighting him a few times afterwards, I can tell you that. But this is the only time I fought him in a tournament with longswords. And we went in and fought each other, and he basically got all the hits. I think like the point results was 3-1 or something like that. But I remember we got into a very close situation, and he got his sword behind my head, and I had my sword like towards the ground, and I was like, oh crap, this isn't a good position. And it pulled me to the ground, and I dropped my mask, and it rolled out of the arena. I was thinking, oh my God, never again. This was horrible. This isn't any good. And I was wearing too much protection. I had like a gambers on, and I had my dough plate from Kendo, and big bulky lacrosse gloves and everything. And I was used to be fencing in basically a t-shirt at this time. And I went up, and then the judges were discussing the match. And actually, one of the 2 judges wanted me to win the fight, even though I fall down and the other guy was hitting me all the time. But I remember that it kind of made an impression to me that, oh, maybe this will go well to the next fight or something like that. But in the end, I lost that fight because of the points. And in the end, because one judge was judging for him, and one judge were voting for me, and so the point decided, and Stanson won that fight. The next time I went to a tournament was Dijon 2009, and I was still a bit shocked up by the swordfish fiasco, or what we want to call it. And I remember that Anders Linden took me, and he brought me outside of the hall, and it was like, you need to fight here, Dennis. I know that you know how to fight. And I was like, oh, okay then. And I went in, and I met this French man. I don't remember his name this day. And he had a stance that was leaning backwards a little bit. And he had this gray knee pad. And I went in, and I did something with my sword to draw his attention up high, and I smacked him on the knee pad, and I won. So that's how I won my first fight. That was also like a one-hit fight, and the winner progressed, and the other one was out of the tournament. So, and I progressed, and I actually went all the way into the final, and where I got to meet Axel Peterson. I didn't lose that fight, so I got in second in my second tournament. I remember that, like, going in with a little bit of confidence, it helped me a lot during this. And I have Anders Linden to thanks for having that discussion with me before. My third tournament was Swordfish in 2009. I went in the pool. This was the first tournament I did in H.E.M.A that had pools. We used to have them in Kendo, but it wasn't usual at this time. And I remember that in my pools, and I was fighting with the pool kids. I was allowed to fight with nylons now. I had this guy, Anders Linnard. He was in my pool. I was like, oh crap, he's like the best there is. He really was at this time. I don't think he had lost like one fight ever. And I met him in my pool, and he beat me up. And then I went to, but I did proceed out of the pool and into the eliminations. And in the eliminations, I think I fought. Was it Andreas Stålberg, a very, very talented Swedish fencer? And I won that fight. Then I got this guy called Axel Peterson, and I won that fight too. And my girlfriend, I quite recently broke up with a girlfriend who actually was at Swordfish, and she went to me and said something like, okay, good that you got this far, but now you have to meet the godfather of H.E.M.A. My next fight was with Matt Gallas. And I was like, okay, I'm 23 years old. I've been doing this for a year and a half, and I'm fighting Matt Gallas. Okay, fun. But in the end, I actually won. Probably because I got a little bit mad. My ex-girlfriend tried to psych me out before the fight. So it went well. And in the end, I actually got to meet Anders Linnard once more in the final. And I won the tournament. And what I remember mostly about this tournament was that I started adapting to what I learned about preparations when doing Kendo. And this was really, really helpful for me. And I noticed that people weren't doing what I was doing. They were like standing in full gear between fights and like waiting, and didn't calm themselves down in a way. And they didn't seem to have been doing like preparations like a month earlier, but I have done that and it kind of worked. I just going to mention 3 other tournaments very quickly. One is the Worldwide Open Championship in Germany, 2010. It was a Colin Richards event. I remember it because I think it was one of the first tournaments I entered multiple weapons. And I remember I did 36 fights during a weekend there. And back then there was a lot of fights. Usually I've done more later on, but then it's been like events like Battle of the Bridge and stuff like that. But this was like normal tournaments with like long wait in between them, but I still got to do so many fights. And that was so fun because we went as a whole team of Swedes, and all of us kind of adapted to do real preparations when we went there. And we went there as athletes. We were coming in like the sport jackets, and like the Germans that were fighting there at this time, they were all of them not focused in that way. They were more like showing up in chainmails and having a beer, and we Swedes went to bed early, and everything worked out really, really well for us. And we were 5 Swedes going there, and I think we got placed 1, 2, and 3 in the longsword, and 2 and first and second place in rapier. So that was like amazing experience, showing that really using preparations worked for me. The next one was Swordfish 2011. I want to have just a little bit of words about. It was a tournament where I focused really, really, really much on the preparation. So I can basically say that I overdid them. I raised the bar. I tried to go out running intervals in hills, and I did like extra training, and I also, I think I blogged about like how I was preparing for Swordfish, and I did a huge thing about this. And during the longsword tournament, I remember I got a little bit psyched in my head that like, I've done everything right, I have to win this now. And in the end, I was beaten in, I think it was like the 8-part or quarter-part final against a guy I usually had won to. But I wasn't there in my head because I have overdone the preparations a bit. So that's also an aspect that I'm going to come to later on. And the last tournament I want to mention is Swordfish in 2012, which I won. And I've gone back, taken my preparations back a little bit of a step, trying to calm down a little bit more before the tournament. And I went in with an open mind and with a focus on actually winning. And I think this is the first tournament I've used music in between fights to get psyched up a little bit. And it worked really, really well. So, and also that was like, for me, one of the most important tournaments in my whole career, because like everybody who was really, really great were at that tournament in that time. So yes, moving on to how I look on preparations for going to a tournament. So all year around, I want you to train everything with the weapon you're training. So basically, I want you to be training everything from fundamentals, like training footwork, training just to cut with a sword, having the right lines with your cuts, training distant management with your opponent, training like all of this, but as well to train the more advanced technical stuff. I, as a trainer or as an instructor, I'm always trying to make exercises that gives more than just one type of training. So if I'm training techniques, I might will be putting in that you're making like 3 or 4 techniques, and depending on how the bind is, you should do this or this or that, because then you both train your feeling about how you're training about what you do. Then you can use that against the other person, and so you get more than just like training in and doing a vinden, then you're doing a vinden, and then you're doing a vinden. But if the other person also is allowed to parry and you have to do a mutiren, for example, you get a more rounded way of training. I basically seen this as you have 2 staples of how to train fencing. You have a advanced stable and a basic stable. So you can train your advanced, like you can be the person who does the perfect technique sets, but as long as you don't have the basic skills, you will never be able to use your advanced skills in a sparring bout or in a competition. So you need to train your basic skills so you always have like a because it's kind of making a roof for you. So if your basic skill is higher than your techniques, you will just rely on basic fencing. But if your technique skills are higher than your basic skills, you won't be able to use this part in between, basically, during an actual fight. So that's what I'm thinking of when I'm instructing, like all year round. But then come like a month before a tournament, I start beginning my preparations for that specific tournament. And you can basically say that from week 4 up until the second week before the tournament, I increase the physical aspects of the fencing training. I put in both more like push-ups and that sort of stuff, but I also make the sparring harder. I do harder like drills and stuff like that. So we're pushing it a bit forward here and trying to build a better condition in the body, so you're more psyched to actually be going to the tournament. A lot of hard sparring, and sometimes I even incorporate like rules from the tournament into the sparring. Haven't been doing that much the last couple of years because it's been quite the same, but been and also maybe even like judging the sparring a little bit, so you get a feeling of how the competition will be looking when you're fighting. Except for in the fencing hall, I usually do my normal training. I do a lot of like weightlifting, and I do a lot of walking and such. I basically do this the same amount or a little bit higher, but not too much, because I'm also, since I'm raising the bar in the fencing hall. I don't want to raise it all, because then you stress your body. So that's what I do, like for like week 4, 3, and 2 before the competition. Moving on to the last week before the actual competition, I usually skip all extra training that isn't H.E.M.A. So I don't go to the gym, I don't go out jogging, I do walk my dogs, but basically no long distance walking for hours and hours, just like calm normal walks and stuff like that. I edit the training in the fencing hall for to be a more technical type of training. I do more single time techniques, I do more like drills that's more focused on like how to manage different problems in your fencing, and more like very specific technical stuff that you could have used for in the actual competition, that also has a low risk of getting injured before going into the competition. More single time techniques, but we have softened the we don't hit so hard, and we try to not get injured during the sparring, with a higher focus on technique. So we put in a lot more technical focus in the sparring as well. During this week, I always load up on energy, and with that I mean, since I'm lowering my physical training, I usually I basically eat what I want, and try not to like, if I was on a diet, I would have a cheat week that week. I was like, I'm not doing this diet. I'm just eating what I want and trying to be confident in my body, building up energy for the tournament. Like, I try to pack everything in advance, so I don't have to do it like the day before I go to the tournament, or like in the same day or so. So I have like everything is done. I also try to go over my gear, so like fencing masks and everything is okay, and like prepare the practical stuff around the tournament as early as possible, so you have like a good chance of actually focusing on the tournament. One thing I do that I have as that is like a little bit of a thing for me that I always do before the tournaments is that I take a night off. So let's say I'm going on a tournament on Friday. I usually have fencing training on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So Wednesday evening, I put on a nice film on the TV, and I sit down, have something good to eat, and maybe some candy and stuff like that. And this helps me get into the right mood. If I'm feeling stressed about the tournament and I'm very psyched, I maybe need to lower the excitement before going, so then I can maybe put on a comedy or something like that. But if I haven't really been thinking of the tournament, which I should have, maybe it's Highlander instead. So I'm trying to do something to get into the right mindset a couple of days before the tournament, basically. Yes. A little bit, one thing a little bit more personal, and I myself, and this isn't really proved in if you read up on training, what's the word? Science, basically, and it's I myself know that have a little bit of better focus. Like if I haven't had sex for like a week before the tournament, so none of that for me. That is a very personal thing, and there's a very good movie to watch about this. It's called Wimbledon with Kirsten Dunst. It's maybe from 2000 something early. Look it up, and see how you self react to this, basically. That's how I do the last week. Now I want to go into on the competition day. What I try to do is I try to bring stuff that helps me in a practical way. I try to bring beverages, some snacks, like fruits and maybe some chocolate bars and stuff like that. I try to bring extra clothing and some extra warm clothing. So like if my t-shirt gets wet in the pool, I can change and have a dry one that I walk around in until the actual eliminations and stuff like that. Stuff that make you feel better throughout the day. I try to warm up thoroughly before the fights, but what I see that a lot of people are doing wrong is that they warm up too early. Then you're burning a lot of calories for a long time, and then when you come to gear check and stuff like that, you will start to cool off. It's better to warm up quite close to the gear check and then stay in movement until the fights, like even during the gear check and such. I try to take a break between the pools and eliminations and try to, like for me, one of the things I like to do is actually leave the fencing hall. Just go out for like 10 minutes, have a little bit of air, and come in again. I like to watch the fights, but I try not to do it too much because then it wears on the cycle a little bit. I think it takes the thought of my own fights away a little bit. But it's good to watch the other fencers a little bit at least, so you know what the other fencers are doing, and I would also say that it's good to watch the judges a little bit to see how they're judging today. How, for example, how long is the afterblow tempo? It could vary like a very, very big amount during a tournament, or like if you have two tournaments like a month apart, the afterblow sequence could differ like half a second or something like that, just between the tournaments. One other thing I tend to do between mostly in the eliminations and in like when coming up closer to the finals, I try to listen to music to help focus. And for some people this helps, for some people it doesn't. But I think you could try it. You really should. So that's basically how I do during a competition day. I'm trying to stay as calm as possible. I try to watch a little bit, but not so much that I get tired from it. For example, I like to judge on the same day I'm competing. The reason for this is that I'm focusing on a thing that takes the way of the stress of my tournament in a way. So you can try that as well if you haven't done it. And hopefully you win the tournament at this point. But then it comes the day after as well. And I want to talk a little bit what I do directly after tournament. Like the day after tournament, I usually evaluate how the tournament went. What did I do good? What did I do bad? What can I improve to help me become a better fencer for the next tournament? And also try to see what the trends are in the fencing, because there are always trends running through the fencing. Like this year, a lot of people are using one-handed techniques, and half a year afterwards, everyone who tries to do a one-handed technique gets hit in the head. So then they disappear for 2 years, and then they reappear, and it always works like that. So it's good to know how the trends are working and be able to work around them. And by evaluating this, when we go out, a bunch of people from my club, we usually do this in the car on the way home. We're sitting and talking about how did everything go and what can I train to get better before the next tournament. And this is a perfect time to make a plan to solve the issues you're having. So that was basically what I wanted to talk about, and I want to say a big thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was great having you. So yeah, I heard some really great things here, which I'm gonna go a bit further into if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
And some questions I saw now. So the first thing I wanted to ask, you spoke of the right mindset. Do you have a specific mindset you want to be in? Like really, that's it?
Yes, I have this mindset where I'm totally focused on the fight. If I've had a really good fight, I don't remember the fight afterwards. It's a few years I had that fight, but that's like what I'm looking for, and it's then you don't hear the audience shouting or anything. You're just focused on you and your opponent. If I'm having a bad fight, I'm more focusing on what's happening around and all of that. So I'm trying to get into this quite calm place, but still focused. Calm but focused. That's what I'm looking for.
Right, nice. So then I saw a question coming from the YouTube channel.
Yes.
First of all, in that, did you notice a lot of help or a better start because of your kendo experience when starting with H.E.M.A? Did it help a lot?
Yes, absolutely it did, because back then in H.E.M.A, I don't think people really knew how to prepare for a tournament, basically. So people just went there and they fought, and then they were done with it, basically.
Beers and beverages.
Yeah, yes, but for me, I went in as I did when I did kendo. I focused on what I was supposed to do, and I really tried to go in with the best opportunity for myself. So, yes.
Oh, great. Also a fun one. I noticed you said about fighting the national champion during the event there. I know the same thing happened because we once fought on Swordfish, I believe.
Yes,
in the pools, and
Yes.
Marcos Arinho said to me, like, I asked him, who's that guy? You can take him. It's fun. I was like, all right. And
Yes.
you won for the second time Swordfish that year.
Okay. Yes.
So I had a really great laugh at that moment.
Yes.
Also,
glad to be able to help with that. Though.
Yeah, right. I got the same event now, so I have a good line in front of me. I see that happening.
Yes.
All right. So another question is, what kind of music do you listen during between events or right in front of them?
That actually differed a lot through the years. In general, I'm a metal fan, so it's been everything from like Sabaton to older like Iron Maiden, and all of that type of music, and newer metal as well, Rammstein. So, but I remember, like, before the final at Swordfish 2012, I was actually listening to Swedish House Mafia, to the song. Now it's. It was Swedish House Mafia, and sometimes I've been listening to like really like hard rap music as well. But mostly it's metal or house. Yes.
All right, nice. And I think we have a question for one last question.
Yes.
Let's take a look. I had one here. So there are a few questions about the techniques you used during that last week of training.
Yes.
So in the 4 weeks before that, do you add any new techniques on any one you see is coming to the event?
I think that might be a little bit late to add on something completely new. So I'm still working with like techniques that I've already been working with. But let's say that I've been having a problem with people hitting me on my right elbow. Then I'm trying to solve the issue of not getting people to hit me on the right elbow, basically. That that was like just to have something to go on. But it could also be like a attacking technique. Like if I go in with a cut to the head and then change it through and go with the thrust from below, I could like evaluate, not only just evaluate, but also add on stuff to that during battle. But
yes.
Mostly focusing on like closing the gaps and being able to.
Well, that was the last question, and with that we. All right, it's losing my internet connection. No. Of course I. So there were the questions. Thank you very much. I'm not sure if you can hear me or if anyone can hear me currently.
I hear you. It's just your frame that stopped.
All right. Well, that's great. Thank you very much. I hope to be seeing you soon when the events are possible again, or on a different online event. And thank you for coming.
Yes. Thanks very much for having me. It was really, really fun doing this. It feels a little bit like going to a new event. Thank you.
All right, great. That's nice.